Okay, so today we're going to talk about whether it's really good advice to follow your passion, how I feel about it, and everything. Because I've seen so much polarizing arguments about some people are like, you need to only follow your passion. Other people are like, no, that's a bad idea. Bad advice. And then I feel like they're just at war with each other. And what should we do? We'll just sit back, listen. But I want to give my opinions as well because I have very specific traits about me that I feel like some people could relate to that would really benefit from my point of view. So anyway, I am a firm believer of following your passion because I do think that it's very hard to do things when you're not passionate. I feel like there needs to be at least 80% passion in what you're doing because I've for all my life felt really, really difficult to get into something if I'm not interested in it. I'm the kind of person who can go all out in something if I'm really passionate. At the time, I can go 150%. And it's funny because I do so crazy when I'm really passionate. But I also notice that sometimes you can be really passionate about something, but that can also fade due to certain things. But the most important thing I do believe that it matters is I do believe in following your passion. I really do. And I think it's very important because I don't think it's possible for the longevity if you're not passionate. I just don't think that's that possible. At least for people like me, I am very, very ADHD minded, as in I change what I love to do very often, and for me to stay consistent in one thing for a period of years is unheard of. So that is something I've been working on for a very long time, and I've finally sort of figured out my secret, and that is allowing I have to follow my passion, right? But I also have to get better at it. But at the same time, I feel like it's important to also allow some freedom in what you like to do so that you're not just doing the same thing. Because a lot of times what happens is I get passionate about one thing and then I move on to something else because I found passion in that thing too. And then, oh my God, and then I lose interest in the first thing. That's something I always go through. I don't know if other people can relate. But the most important thing to consider when you're passionate is how good you are at it. When I first got into art, I really sucked at it. I think everyone does when they first get into something, especially something creative. When you first get into something creative, you're likely going to really suck at it. But whether you have the self-awareness is a very important thing because let's say I've been creating videos for about a year now. I've been consistently making videos every single day on YouTube for about a year, and I am passionate about it. That's why I do it. I am not just doing it because I want to make money. I am actually really passionate about it because in my childhood, I love making videos. To me, I want a big library of video diaries in my sleeve so that it's memorable in the future. That's kind of a big reason why I do it. Of course, I do want to make money, but that's separate. I would do this if I couldn't make money. If it was something that I don't know if I would make it if I could make money ever, but I definitely am passionate about it enough to not do it just for the money. However, I know that earlier on, I'm going back to my older videos and my older freaking a lot of the stuff, and I'm cringing at my old thumbnails, cringing at my old stuff because it sucks. It's oh God, how could I come up with something so crap? Seriously, I just cannot believe how bad it is because as you get better, what I find is a lot of times when you get better during this progress, when you're improving, you start to notice how lack of quality or whatever it is your past work is. So as I draw better, a lot of times I'll think, oh God, my old art looks really bad. And I do art once in a while. I'm not that into it at the moment, but I kind of come out of retirement once in a while just to make something that I really want that's not available. So that's one of my reasons why. But my main creativity is making videos. That is an example of what I love doing and that I will do it. I want to do it and I don't want to lose my motivation and passion. And I find that one of the biggest reasons why a person can lose motivation in something that they loved is if it gives them some kind of stress. So as soon as it starts to be stressful, then our mind is likely going to want to walk away from it and do something that's more fun. And more fun is less stress to me until that thing may become stressful. So I've experienced this where I found something I really passionate about. I made it into this stressful thing. And then I've just moved on from it because it's more of a reminder of stress than passion. So that's very important too. Like, it depends on what you're doing. Like, if you're doing art or you're doing some kind of creative thing, it's very important not to put self-inflicted pressure as well, because sometimes I'll be like, oh, I have to do this, do that. If I don't do this amount, then I suck. If I don't create this, then I suck. If I can't create this, then it's the end of the world. It's like my own self-inflicted stress. That's very important not to put yourself into that, because a lot of times when we're so used to creating a certain amount of work every day, we kind of just want to continue that amount, even if some days you need a break, but you just say, I have to keep going. If I don't do this, then I'm failing myself. And that's a really, really bad way of thinking it. I'm going to not tell you to like be able to, I know it's impossible to get out of that mindset, but I will just keep reminding you to take it easy and take it as it comes, and don't force yourself to do things if you're not in the mood. Sometimes it's really good to give yourself time between it. Don't put pressure on yourself. And then there's the thing, what if other people put pressure on you? So that's another problem, is that if you start getting other people pressuring you, that could cause even more stress. So that's why I have to think, okay, I'm passionate about this. How much stress will it cause me? And if it doesn't cause me any stress, then I'm likely to enjoy it, and it's likely to become passion longer, right? One of the most biggest problems, I think, is when someone is passionate, but they don't know how much they suck at it in the beginning. I feel like it's a very important skill to build, and that is self-awareness. And okay, I'm going to give an example, and I feel so horrible for this, but I'm not going to say who it is, so it's going to be like totally anonymous, so nobody can know anything. But I had this friend who was really into writing. She is absolutely passionate about writing, and she believes that she's going to publish a book. It's going to be a worldwide bestseller and everything. And then she got me and another friend to read it, to just give her some pointers. And let's just say that the story is just I can't say anything else, but it's poorly written. That there's just like, it's not organized in a way that is very appealing to most readers, because we kind of read it, we agreed and things, and it was hard to tell her because she thought it was so amazing. It was really hard to tell her, because she was passionate, and we couldn't tell her that you need to really like think about how you present the story. You can't just like have, because what happened is the story had this like the first 10 chapters was this mundane everyday life thing, and then suddenly the plot began and all the information was just dumped in one page, and then suddenly it's like all this crazy stuff happened, and it doesn't really, let's just say that if you're a reader, it will be very easy to completely be overwhelmed, because nothing was ever said in the beginning. In the beginning, it was all about like them just taking a holiday and all that, like just everyday things, like very, very everyday, which is a really good genre if that's what you're writing. But then all of a sudden, like the doors open, the coyotes and everything just began like taking over the world. It's kind of like similar to that. Like, I'm not exactly saying that that's the story, but that's just basically how it is. And it's just something that is too overwhelming. Like, as a reader, you're like, oh my God, what's going on? And a lot of times everything's written in a way that is just like, oh, this happened. So it's kind of just telling the story, right? There's no real showing. So that is something like I feel like it's very important to go over your own work, because when you go over your own work enough times and you find ways to improve, you're going to find that, oh, this may not be written as well or done as well. I need to improve it. And some people, like me, do find it very difficult to take criticism, because it's kind of like a reminder of, like, it's like embarrassment to me. So if I get critiques from other people, a lot of times it can be very embarrassing. So I prefer to kind of go over myself 100 times and kind of give myself the critique first. So at least when you go like get critique from someone, just expect it to be really bad. Like, just expect people to say, oh, there's problems everywhere. Don't expect people to say, oh my God, you're doing so well, you're going to be the best. Because a lot of times what I find is we're a lot our work is a lot worse than what we think in the beginning, because we're such a beginner, a newbie, that we just think, oh wow, oh, what I did was the best thing ever, like, oh, everyone's gonna love it. But in reality, it's like we need a lot more practice and everything to actually get to that stage where it can be like, oh my god, like the greatest work ever. So I do believe it is a huge thing to really go over your work and to look at it and to just think about, oh, what can I do to improve? And don't pressure yourself to like, oh, I have to improve every day. That's like too much pressure. Just go back to your old stuff and like, oh, what's making me cringe? What's like, oh, like what is like, maybe you've developed a better font style and you go back and you go, oh God, the old fonts really suck. Or like my biggest example is my thumbnails in the beginning. Like last year, all the thumbnails are so bad. I'm like cringing at the thought of it. And I'm like, I just want to erase it all, but I can't really do that. So I'm just like trying to let it go and allow myself to have this bad work, but know that from now on, I can improve a lot more, because I'm definitely going to have to improve a lot for me to do my own raise my own standards. And it's a very important thing to continue raising your own standards so you can do better work. If you're stuck in the same place, what's the word? I can't even think of the word. That's how bad it is. If I'm stuck with the same quality of work without ever improving over 10 years, then passion itself will probably not be enough to get me anywhere. However, if you're really, really self-aware and you know to improve on certain areas, then I do believe passion can get you a lot of places. You just have to know yourself very well. You have to know your own work. You have to go over your own work and not just do it and then just leave it there and go like, oh, that's it. Sometimes it's good to reflect. Sometimes it's really good to go back and say, oh, what was it? But the thing is, if you might be like me, that if other people pointed it out, you might just be too embarrassed to do it. So it's important for you to do it yourself first. Do it yourself. Like I was starting to write a memoir, and I know like when I wrote it in the beginning, the first time I wrote it, it was horrible. I went through it like 50 times and it was absolutely dreadful writing. I had no skill whatsoever. All my writing was just very mundane and horrible. It was basically like, oh, this happened. It was like telling the story. I find that when you first write something, it was always like telling the story. You don't really know how to show it. And as I continued, what happened was I would go over the same passage like 10 times, 20 times. Every single time I find something more to fix. And by the time I'm up to the 100th time that I read it, I've actually rewritten the whole thing like many times. I've added things to make it sound more interesting. I've actually added some humor even. I've thought of a lot of interesting things to add to it. And if you read the first time I wrote it versus the 100th time that I've edited, it is completely different. And that's very important for someone who is very passionate about what you're doing to be able to do. So instead of like getting like someone else to read it and say, oh, this is all the problems you have, because it could embarrass you. Like just like if you're really, really, really passionate about singing, but you're bad at it and you're singing out of key, I would find it too embarrassing to go to one of those idol shows to sing and then get like, and they like sing really badly and then have the judges tell you suck and don't ever bother. I would find that too embarrassing. I'd rather critique myself. So what I would do is but the thing is, you can't really critique yourself until you have you have a good knowledge of what sounds good. So you got to but it's also at the same time, you have to not put yourself under so much pressure that you go, I suck and I'm never going to get there. So it is a balance. You have to find a balance. You have to know what looks good to be able to allow yourself to work towards that over time and not right away, but at the same time not feel like it's too impossible because whatever they're doing is too good. Because that's also another thing is sometimes when I see people do really beautiful art and do amazing journaling and stuff, I do find that, it's impossible for me to ever do that. So I wouldn't even try. And that's a problem as well. You have to actually do and start and be bad at it. But it's also really cool because over time, I find that this happens with everything. It's just like a video game. When you're playing a game in the beginning, you can barely control the character. You're jumping into the holes, you're freaking dying over whatever, little things. As you play it the 100th time, guess what? You know exactly how to do it. Your brain will just be able to get gain the skills. And a lot of time that's same thing with creative work, is that if you do it over and over and over and you're able to go back and just look at things and try to, like, I don't know, just critique yourself and evaluate your work, I do find that you can just gradually get better. At least that's what I find. I know maybe some people find it harder, but that's what I find. So, but the passion is so important, because I know for me, if I'm not passionate about something, I couldn't do it. I would just lose interest. I would just move on to something else that I'm very passionate about. But the important thing is to be continuously passionate about something that you were passionate about without losing it. And the number one way I would see how to lose it is some kind of stress that happens to cause it. And the stress can be caused by others. It can be lack of awareness of your work. It could be you have too high of expectation, like you might think it's too good, but it's not. So you're thinking, oh, why aren't people enjoying my work when I put all this effort into it? People should be loving it, right? But in reality, it may not be as good as you think, because you haven't been able to improve, and you can only see or notice. I find that it's only possible to notice the difference in quality of your own work if you've improved. So when I'm first drawing something, right, and it looks really good to me, but for some reason, as I get better, I look at that and I'm like, oh, that can be fixed. Like, there's problems here. But when I looked at it in the beginning, my brain literally cannot pick those flaws up. So that's a very important thing that I feel like we need to all know, is that, are we actually doing good? Like, let's critique it ourselves first. Let's critique it many times. Are we good at it? And what if you're really good at something, but you hate it? That happens too, because I've actually had a lot of experiences where I was good at something, but I hated it. I really hated it. For example, there was one time when I was doing this random job where I was had to call people up, and I must have had a really friendly voice or something. People just were more willing to give me the questions that I asked, because I did the worst job in the world, and that is calling people up to ask them about their phone company. And these days, if you did that, I think you would get even more abuse because of all the scams that's going on. Like, these days, I feel like it's like a death sentence. But, I was good at it, because the boss was like, oh my God, you're so good at this. Like, he really, really wanted me to like continue there, but I had to quit because I hated it. It was just horrible, because I was facing with stress. It was like dealing with people's anger, dealing with like just unnice people. I feel like one of the biggest stress that causes us to shut down is dealing with other people's unhappiness, dealing with people's, I don't know, like critiques. Dealing with people can be like one of my biggest stress factors. So I have to really think about, how can I decrease that amount of stress for me to continue loving what I do? And I have to really think about, okay, if this is stressing me out, I have to do less of it. I have to be very intentional about this so that I don't put myself through this stress as much as I can. And then if I'm not as stressed, I will enjoy doing something. I won't want to move on to something else. And if I do move on to something else, I do allow myself to. And kind of my creative work kind of follows me rather than I follow what I feel like I need to do. That's the thing with me, is when I'm making videos, I always try to allow my own creative energy or my own passion to guide me on what I want to make. So, for example, this podcast, I did this for like a period of time, like last year. Then I quit for a while because I couldn't think of more things to say at the time. I just didn't have more things I wanted to add. So I was always really, really I felt pressured in a way to continue the podcast. I'd already done like 17 episodes, and I just randomly stopped, and I felt really bad about it. But I knew that if I continued, I would just burn out even more because I couldn't think of what to say. I ran out of stories to tell at the time. And gradually, I stopped for a while. I just started listening to other stuff, and randomly just things will motivate me to continue. I just allow myself that break. So it's very important to allow yourself. And one of the main things that I try to do in this channel is not to stick to one particular topic, especially not one particular topic. Like, I understand that a lot of people will say like, you have to be in a niche, but I try to think of that as, okay, I'm making for a group of people who like different things, and I will have different topics in this channel that I could talk about. For example, I'm doing this podcast and I'm also doing Stardew Valley gameplay. They're very different. They're definitely not a single topic. Like some people might say, oh, you should have a different channel for each of them. But I can't do that, because if I did that, I would quit both of them, because in my mind, I need both of them to be in the same place. Otherwise, I get stressed out. Like if I have multiple channels, I get really stressed out. I just can't continue. So I have to work in my own way. How is it going to be longevity for me? It's very important, because I'm passionate about both things. I want to do both things, and I don't want to do it in separate channels. I have to think, okay, if I do this, sure, like I know that some people who love the game might also enjoy other things, like talking about your own mental health. That's something that everyone could go through. So it's not like I'm doing, like, as long as it's not something too random. Like, for example, I think what I would consider too random is if it's something that I would not want to see because it's too random. For example, certain movies. If you're talking about a certain movie, like review, and then you're going on to like a review of maybe like talking about how to cook something, and you're doing a movie review, and that might be a bit too random. But I try to do everything in a way that, like, I feel like, okay, someone like me would be interested in all these topics, but I can't just go to one topic. To me, that is too narrow, and I hate putting myself in that kind of box, and that would just really, really burn me up very quickly, because as soon as I start having other interests, I'm going to feel like I can't do that, and then that's going to make me feel like I'm boxed in, and then that kind of makes me lose a lot of motivation. So I have to like allow my own creativity, my passion to guide me on what I'm making. And that's fine, because I know that some things will, like, I don't have any expectations on anything to perform. To me, like, getting even 20 views in a video to me is pretty good. Like I'm happy, because it means like 20 people actually looked at it. Like, that to me is not a problem. I've always just kind of had to tell myself, okay, let's not worry about all the stats. Those things are just there to stress me out, really. Stats are there to stress you out. Sometimes it's better to just turn a blind eye, have tunnel vision, and do what you're passionate about, rather than, oh, we're going to look at things and we're going to make sure everything works. You have to do things for you. There's a quote that I really love, and I know this gets so debated. Like, are you doing it for you or the audience? And I do believe you have to do it. Like, I believe in a mixture of both, but I do believe of the importance to do it for you, because if you do it for you and you're really passionate and you love it, you're likely going to learn to produce the best thing ever, and then the audience are going to feel that and love it too. If you're just doing it for the audience, it's just like you're just doing it for them, but it's not like, if it's not in your heart, then people can feel that. I really do believe that. People can feel it. If you don't care about this thing, you're just doing it for the sake of what people want, then what's the point if you just feel hollow and you just can't continue because you just lost your own way or passion or whatever, and you just feel like all you're doing is to satisfy others' needs? That's not good too. So I believe it's a very important thing to have a mixture of both. You're doing some things that they love, that's great, but you also need to fulfill your own desires or your own passion, everything that you really love doing. I really do believe that you absolutely need to do that. Otherwise, you're just going to feel less passionate and maybe burn out. Everyone burns out for different reasons. For me, it's like a lot of times I burn out because I found a new passion and I want to pursue that. So the old thing is like, I just leave it. That's kind of why I burn out, because I kind of just get distracted very easily. So I could be doing this. I could be doing something that I think is really cool and I love it, but I find something that I'm suddenly obsessed with. So if that happens for me in my channel, I would have to share that in order for me to not burn out. That's why I started doing Stardew Valley gameplay videos, like really long ones, because I was so passionate about the game. I was so passionate. That's all I could do and think about for days. I spent 400 hours. I was like just playing it nonstop. I was doing it. I was losing sleep. Literally, I was playing it because I loved the game that much. And I never thought I would be the type of person to do like a video, like lifestyle video and gaming videos and at the same time. I never thought I would do that, but I decided to do it because I was so passionate. Like, will that be overall good for my channel? I don't know. I don't care. Like, seriously, that playlist is there. If someone wants to watch it, they'll get extra joy. I don't care if it's not fits in with the can't even speak. Rest. Well, I do believe it does fit in because it's kind of like, it's kind of like that cozy feels. And I like to make things cozy in my channel. So that's cozy, kind of like just motivating, cozy kind of feel. So in a way, it does match my theme. However, it's definitely not something that people would have recommended to do. I don't know, some cooking video, some gaming video, some, I don't know, motivational videos. That would be against YouTube, like all those, those how to grow your YouTube guides kind of thing. They would be like, no, don't do that. But I'm doing that because that's what I'm passionate about. And if I don't do that, I'll quit the channel altogether. And I find that, for me at least, one of the biggest problems I've ever had in life is quitting too early. Yep, I quit everything too early because I lost, like I got too stressed about something and I just quit. So my latest goal of the last few years is to find that one thing I don't quit on. And that's what I've been working on. And that's been working really, really well for my channel because I have to follow what I'm passionate about. So if I'm really passionate about talking about a certain topic, that's what I'm going to have to do. That's what I'm going to film. I have to film based on what I'm passionate about at the moment. Because if you're forcing me to do something that I don't care about, I can't make videos about that. It's just very hard. I can do 1 or 2 videos, sure. But I can't do like 10 or 20 or 30 or continue doing that just because I know it's going to do well. It's very hard. I love to do things that do well, but in addition with other stuff. And I find that very often what happens is I feel like we need permission from other people. Like what I find is often when I hear people say, you shouldn't follow your passion, you got to do this and do that. My brain is like, okay, I'll have to agree. I'll do that. Whereas if someone says, you need to follow your passion, do this, suddenly I feel like, oh, I'm allowed to. I don't know why we do that. I think it's because we're tribe animals or whatever. Like some people will be angry that I'm saying we're tribe animals, but we live like, I don't know. I feel like our brains are like, just need other people's approval, but we don't. I'm just going to be here to remind you that we don't need anyone's approval. You do what you love. You do it, like you don't need approval from anybody. You don't need permission. You don't need approval. You got to do what makes you stick around to do it for a long time, because I do believe in patience. One of the things I do believe is I was too impatient for everything. I never got anywhere with anything because I gave up too soon. And sometimes creative stuff takes years and years and years of work to get anywhere. But if I just quit after 2 years, that's too soon. Like that's not going to get anywhere if we just quit after 2 years. So that's a very important thing that I just want to remind you, is that passion. Yes, passion is very important. I do believe in that you got to be good, so you have to improve. You can't just be blindly passionate, because that's likely going to have people just looking at your work. If you're really bad at your work but you think you're good, is people going to be like, oh, like, and if you're too proud of your work to see any flaws, it's going to be hard for people even to say anything. That's what I find. Well, I find it hard to critique someone if they're really proud of their work. But I'm the nice person who's going to say like, oh, that's pretty cool, even though I'm not really thinking that, even though I don't want to be like that. But I just, find it very hard. But that's just me though. So it is important to be self-aware. It's important for passion. Passion, I believe, is 80% of what you got to feel. And then 20% self-awareness and everything else, like whether you're good at it and everything, is very important too. But in the end, like I'm very, very proud of how long I've been able to stick around this YouTube channel of daily content for a whole year. I think it's been past a year now. I think it's just been a year now that I've been creating daily content, but it's more than daily because there are many days I've done 2 or 3 pieces of content. And it's not about how much I can grow. It's not about how much reviews I can get. Of course, those matter. I'm not going to lie that it doesn't matter. Of course it matters. However, it also matters to me now to be able to continue something and not quit, because I had this food blog that I quit after 2 years because it got too hard, and everything else I just seemed to quit right away. So being able to do this for a whole year is a huge thing. However, what I want to do, my goal is to continue this for the next 10 years, 20 years, and keep doing it because I love doing it and I want to keep like documenting my journey. That's really what I'm doing, is just documenting my journey so that I have something to look back on. It doesn't even matter if the rest of the world cares or not. I need to have this documentation and to be able to enjoy it and see how far I've come to different things. Like if it helps someone else, then that's great. I feel like it's important. If it can help one person, then it's great. So yeah, that's all I have today. So hopefully you go follow your passion. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise.